way cheaper and more accurate than humans are. So that's, really looking at the labor substitution piece.
Amazon has announced another round of layoffs impacting around 16,000 roles.
In June 2026, India's technology job market hit a 28-month low. Active tech openings fell to just 93,000, down 14% in a single month.
Is AI destroying the Indian IT sector?
We know AI adoption is rapidly accelerating in the
Entry-level technology openings collapsed 44% from the year before. And yet, in the same month, GCC hiring was up 31% year-on-year.
At a time when AI is expected to reduce hiring, some of the world's biggest IT companies are actually hiring more people in India.
Global Capability Centers or GCC is the offshore units of companies like JP Morgan, Walmart and Google. They now employ 2.36 million professionals across India. But who is in that job list and who is not? Most importantly, will you qualify? So here's a big question. How can the Indian IT be simultaneously shrinking and growing? And also, what happens to the 1.5 million engineering graduates India produces every single year? The industry that was supposed to absorb these graduates no longer needs what they're trained to do. Let me repeat that, no longer needs what they're trained to do. In simple words, they're outdated and unemployable. Let's dive in. To understand this contradiction, you have to understand what Indian IT was built to do and what it was never built to do. In 1999, the world panicked over a computer bug called Y2K. American companies needed millions of lines of code to be rewritten.
In focus this evening, the glitch that could short-circuit cyberspace.
On New Year's Day, 2000, is it possible that we're in for an international disaster?
American programmers did not want to do that job. It was tedious, repetitive, and low status. Infosys, led by Narayana Murthy, stepped in and said, "We will do it," for a fraction of the price an American contractor charged. That single year defined the Indian IT business model for the next 25 years. The model was brutally simple. Bill clients by the number of people, multiplied by the number of hours by an hourly rate. More people meant more revenue. The machine was a pyramid, masses of entry-level engineers at the bottom, doing repetitive, process-driven work, feeding a smaller layer of managers above them. To feed this machine, India built 3,500 engineering colleges. The syllabus didn't need to be cutting edge. The labs did not need to be updated. The machine needed bodies, and India had bodies. An entire education system became an assembly line feeding one specific industry. But here is a critical context that most people miss. The system was designed for one kind of work and one kind of worker. I'm sure you've started to understand the problem. By the end of this video, you will be clear which side you are in. It was work that required following instructions, not exercising judgment. In other words, workers who executed tasks, not workers who designed the systems. And interestingly, nobody asked what would happen when the machine changed what it needed. Now, let's try to flip the lens. Because for 25 years, this model was not broken. It was the single most reliable middle-class elevator in Indian history. In its best year, this industry added 450,000 jobs, almost 500,000 new positions, no interns, no gig work. It was full-time employment with a clear trajectory. The model scaled because India had something no other country had at its scale. India had a massive pipeline of English-speaking engineering graduates, all hungry for a job. And here's what made it truly unstoppable. The model told an entire generation a story. The story was very simple. Study engineering and get a campus placement. Work at an IT company, your life is all set. It didn't matter which college you went to. It didn't matter what your grades were. The machine would absorb you. That story held for a generation. It built the Indian middle class. It gave millions of families a path out of poverty. Entire cities, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, transformed from regional towns into global technology hubs on back of this model. And then very quietly, without any announcement, the story stopped being true. And here's where the story gets strategically fascinating, because the numbers reveal the crack is not hidden. They are public, they're just buried in places nobody looks for. Let me show you 3 data points. Number 1, the hiring floor has collapsed. According to Xpheno's June 2026 report, active tech openings in India fell to 93,000, a 28-month low. Entry-level technology openings dropped to 44% year-on-year. The bottom rung of the ladder, the campus placement, the first job, the entry point into the middle class is now pulled away. Number 2, the Indian IT majors are shrinking their workforce. TCS, India's largest IT employer, ended FY26 with 584,519 employees, a reduction of more than 23,000 in a single year. India's largest IT companies, TCS, Infosys, HCL Tech, Wipro and Tech Mahindra, collectively reduced their workforce by roughly 7,000 employees in FY 2026. But revenue is still growing. Infosys posted 3.1% consistent currency growth for FY 2026, but the link between revenue growth and headcount has broken. Number 3, the most important one, the education pipeline is emptying. According to AICTE, 44% of engineering seats across India remained vacant last year. That is nearly half. 58 engineering institutions have applied not for reform but for closure. Not because the demand for engineers has disappeared, because the demand for the kind of engineers these colleges produce have disappeared. Now, here is what makes these numbers terrifying when you line them up. The IT industry is still growing. The hiring flow for entry-level roles is collapsing, and the colleges that feed this pipeline are shutting down. 3 systems designed to work together, industry, education, and aspiration, are now moving in opposite directions. Now, let me show you where this is heading to, because this is not a slow decline, this is a structural collision. Here is what the market demands versus what the system produces. On the demand side, India's GCC ecosystem, the offshore innovation centers run by the world's largest companies, is expanding rapidly.
Google has chosen Visakhapatnam as the location for their 1 gigawatt AI data center.
According to the Nasscom-Zinnov GCC landscape report, India now hosts 2,117 GCCs, operating across 3,728 units, employing almost 2.36 million professionals. Revenues has hit $98.4 billion. Companies like JP Morgan, Walmart, Apple and Google are hiring aggressively. Demand for AI engineering, cloud architecture, cybersecurity, and data analytics is skyrocketing.
Cognizant and EPM systems have all increased headcount in India to drive growth and protect margins.
Bain and Company estimates that AI-related job openings in India could exceed 2.3 million by 2027. But there is a huge problem. India's AI talent pool is projected to reach only about 1.2 million. That's a potential skill gap of more than 1 million qualified people. The jobs exist, the candidates don't.
Becoming a key arena for global tech giants who are doubling down on artificial intelligence. Amazon has announced a sweeping $35 billion investment plan through
On the supply side, the 3,500 engineering colleges that fed the old pipeline are still teaching C and C+ from textbooks published in 2010. The AI, cloud and cybersecurity skills employers are paying high salaries are not in the mainstream curriculum. A Mercer report found that over 80% of Indian engineers are deemed unfit for core technical roles. A separate analysis found out that 72% of undergraduate curriculum did not align with what employers actually need. So here's a crisis in one sentence. India has $283 billion IT industry that is still growing.
India may yet be leading in AI chips or large language models, but it is emerging as a key player in building the infrastructure.
It has 2,117 GCCs that are hiring aggressively. It has millions of high-paying jobs that are unfilled. And it has 3,500 engineering colleges producing graduates almost none of these employers want to hire, because those graduates were trained for a world that no longer exists. The pipeline is full, the destination is clear, the pipes don't connect. And the cost of this collision is not measured in quarterly earnings. It's measured in careers that never start. An entire generation of Indian engineers who had been told the machine would absorb them discovered the machine had been rebuilt without them. So where does this leave us? If the system is broken, who is building the replacement? The answer is complicated because the people who should be building it are aiming at the wrong targets, and the people who could build it aren't being asked. The government is spending big, but at the wrong end of the tunnel. The Indian AI mission has committed 10,372 crore to build AI models and research centers.
We can see that interest in making AI accountable to the society, making sure that we can get the benefits of the new technology. While
the Semiconductor Mission 2.0 has approved 1.27 lakh crore for fabrication. Budget 2026 announced 5 integrated university townships. Of course, these are genuinely significant commitments, but they build infrastructure for the top of the tunnel, researchers, PhDs, and IIT graduates. They do almost nothing for the 85% of engineering graduates coming out of Tier 2 and Tier 3 colleges. The companies are complaining, but they are drinking only from one tap. MNCs and GCCs publicly lament talent shortages while recruiting almost exclusively from the top 100 colleges. This is not a talent strategy, it's a filtering strategy. If you only hire from 3% of engineering colleges and then complain that 97% of graduates aren't qualified, the problem is not the graduates. The problem is that you have decided building the pipeline in someone else's job. The real fix? 3 things that could actually work. Firstly, a national credential framework. Singapore has one and Germany has one. This is a system where a student from any college, Tier 1, Tier 2 or Tier 3 can earn verified employer-recognized certifications. These certifications are in AI, cloud and cybersecurity that count towards their degree and their employment. Second, open source AI infrastructure. The Indian AI mission's GPU clusters should be open to every accredited engineering college, not reserved for the IITs. You cannot learn AI from a textbook, you learn it by building it. Thirdly, companies co-owning the pipeline. Tax credits for MNCs that co-design the curriculum with Tier 2 and Tier 3 colleges. Apprenticeship mandates tied to GCC incentives. This model exists. The pieces are on the table. Connecting them is a political will problem, not a technological problem. And this is where we need to zoom out because the implication of this failure goes far beyond engineering placements. India is betting its economic future on technology. The Digital India program, the AI mission, the semiconductor push, the manufacturing corridors.
Mr. Narendra Modi chaired a roundtable meeting with representatives of 12 Indian AI startups who've qualified.
All of this assume one thing, that India has or can build a workforce capable of executing at a global standard. But if 85% of engineering graduates are unplaceable, if 44% of seats are vacant, if 58 colleges have given up entirely, then India is not building a technology superpower. India is building a technology aristocracy, a small elite class of highly paid, highly skilled engineers at the top. And at the bottom, a vast population of graduates who were promised entry into the middle class and got locked out. The economic cost of that lockout is enormous. When millions of graduates cannot find work that matches their qualifications, they don't just lose income, they lose consumption power. They delay major purchases. They stop being the engine of domestic demand that India's growth story depends on. And they will become a politically volatile generation that was promised prosperity and got a closed door. The geopolitical cost is equally real. India's competitive advantage against China has always been its demographic dividend. A young, English-speaking, technically educated workforce is our strength. If that workforce cannot do the work market demands, India doesn't just lose jobs to automation. It loses these jobs to Vietnam or to Philippines or to any country that figures out the pipeline before India does. The question is not whether Indian IT will survive. The top of the pyramid is too profitable to fail. The question is whether India will let the bottom of the pyramid collapse and what happens to the country's economic and political stability if it does. Indian IT is not dying, it is splitting. The top of the pyramid, the GCCs, the product companies, the AI labs will grow faster than ever. They will attract global capital, they will create wealth, they will make India's technology story look brilliant on a slide deck. But the bottom of the pyramid, the entry-level engineers, the Tier 2 and Tier 3 graduates, the millions of families who build their aspirations on a promise made in 1999. This segment is being quietly left behind, not by malice but by neglect, by a system that was designed for a different era and never redesigned. The fix is not mysterious. Democratized AI infrastructure, a national credential framework, and companies co-owning the talent pipeline. This will do. These are not technological breakthroughs waiting to be invented. They are decisions waiting to be made. So here's my question to you. If you are an engineering student or a working professional, which side of the split are you on? Are you in the 15% the system is building for, or the 85% being left behind? And if you could force one change, one reform, one investment, what would it be? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one of them. We are a brand new channel trying to build a community that understands the intersections of business, policy, and the systems that shape India's economic future. If you found value in this video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next briefing.